Emma, I first experienced Business Chicks almost 5 years ago to the day when I attended my very first 9 to Thrive event in Sydney. I went to that venue looking for something just a little bit different, and when I walked in, it was like, wow, and I was not disappointed by any stretch. Captured by the Business Chicks brand and your work ever since. So it's fair to say I'm just a little bit of a fan. To Business Chicks, every single day I feel like I open my inbox and there's something new or someone exciting being made accessible to your audience. And I think that you have an exceptional vision that embraces your understanding of women and what women want and need, and a determination that ensures that you deliver on that perfectly. So tonight I'd really like it if we could explore that vision and determination as well as your journey so far. And I'd like to delve into just a little bit of who Emma Isaacs is in work and life, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm here for it.
Awesome. So with that in mind, I really want to start with your origin story. Could you take us back to the beginning and how Business Chicks came about?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's roll back the clock. I think if there's anything unique about my origin story, it's that I'm what you might call a career entrepreneur. So I've never actually worked for anyone else before. I had a waitressing job throughout school and, the short time I was at university. But really my whole life I've been having to make up opportunities for myself. I've been having to be independent. I've had to hustle my way into certain situations and opportunities because I've never relied on a paycheck. I've never had a boss or a paycheck. So that kind of gives a unique perspective on life and on scaling businesses and everything else I've tried to go about so far. But really, if you ask my parents, they'd tell you that I was an entrepreneur from the age of about 7 or 8. What I used to do, I'm the eldest of 3 kids. So if you believe anything about birth order, you would understand that most leaders of the family tend to do things their own way and carve their own path. And that was definitely my situation. But as a young kid, what I used to do is get all the kids in my neighborhood together and I'd bring them into my backyard and I'd stand on a milk crate and I'd say, right, here's what we're going to do. And I want you all to go back and raid your parents' wallets and steal or ask, beg, borrow, steal some money from them. Bring it back and we'd calculate all the money, we'd put it together, and I'd go up to the shops and I'd buy a whole heap of lollies and chocolates, and together with all the kids in the neighbourhood, we'd unpackage and unwrap these, these goodies, and we put them into smaller packets and then sell it back to the parents at a really, really inflated price. And we'd never actually repay the money that we borrowed from them in the first place. I suppose I was showing some entrepreneurial skills from a very early age, but I took, the linear path, the conventional path that I thought was expected of me, and I went to university. And the truth is that I lasted for all of 6 months. I am a very experiential learner. I like to kind of roll my sleeves up. I like to ask lots of questions. I like to get into the doing. So I dropped out of university, much to my parents' horror and dismay and quite a bit of shame because I come from a very, very academic family. But I just knew that path wasn't for me. Around about the same time, I met a girl just out socially, and she said, "What are you up to?" And I said, "I've just dropped out of uni. I was studying business, majoring in HR, but I know that's not for me." And she said, "Well, listen, I've just started this little recruitment company and I'm looking to hire someone. Why don't you come and have an interview with me and my business partner?" So in I went the next week, and I ended up getting a job in that little recruitment agency. And a few weeks, like a really short time after I joined, the business partners parted ways, all very, very amicably, with no animosity at all. But when the one business partner was walking out the door, he turned around and said to the woman, "Listen, if you're going to offer equity to anyone in this company, you'd offer it to that kid sitting over there." And he pointed at me. So that's a very abridged story of how I came to be, a 50% shareholder and a director in a little recruitment company at the age of 18. Obviously, I had to buy in through the savings I'd earned through waitressing, whilst at school. And I also had to forego a salary and give all my commissions to be able to buy into the business. But that's how I got my foundation in small business and entrepreneurship. We went on to, really build that business into something special. We had a beautiful culture. We built it to about 40 people. They were like a family to me. It was a great foundation in all areas of business, from customer service through to people management, through to leadership, through to finances. And I think that was a real gift for me at such a young age. After running that company for 7 years, I I kind of got the entrepreneurial itch and I wanted to try something new. I was going through a fair amount of change in my personal world. A long-term relationship had ended, and I was starting to think about what was next, and that thought terrified me as much as it was exhilarating. So a friend of mine, a girlfriend, invited me along to a Business Chicks event, and I remember thinking, oh, that is the most terrible name I've ever heard in my life. I mean, I'm insulted. I think the word chicks is derogatory. I'm a professional entrepreneur. I'm a feminist, And she said to me, you need to get over yourself and you need to just come along and experience these things. So, I mean, I'm glad I did. I, like you, I walked into that room thinking this is just phenomenal and extraordinary and there's something very, very special going on here. And I ran back to my recruitment company. I handed around my credit card. I said, every single person here needs to become a member. We need to buy 3 tables for the next event. This is a really spectacular thing. We should get involved. So we did that. And at that event, I learned that the business was for sale. So I ran up to the lady at the end and I said, listen, I've never run an event before in my life. I have never, run a membership organization before. So I have absolutely no idea of what I'm doing. I'm completely unqualified for the job, but I want to talk with you. And again, I'm telling the very abridged story here that 6 months later, I bought the Business Chicks business. I was 25 at the time. We started with 200 members. We now reach over 500,000 women across the globe. I'm coming to you from my home in Los Angeles in California, where we moved 5 years ago to scale the business here. So it's just been a wild kind of ride of, ups and downs and huge personal growth. And, honestly, still wake up every single day wanting to do the work that we do. And I'm still as energized about the business as I was, as that naive person 15 years ago. So it's been great fun.
I mean, you may describe that as naive, but all I hear is courage and bravery along the way. So, buying that first business, then buying Business Chicks, and your move to LA as well. And we'll move on to your family story a little bit later into our discussion, which I also think is incredibly brave. But what would you say to people who perhaps don't have that bravery within them or don't know how to find that? What advice would you give there?
I think it's earned, and I think it's not God given. So it wasn't as if, I would like to think I'm instinctually a leader and I was born, with some, I suppose, inclination for leadership. But courage is something that I've had to learn and I've had to, and I've had to, that's all it is. Like they call it a practice. It's a practice. You've got to keep practicing, putting yourself into situations that scare you. You've got to keep showing up and you've got to keep on seeking out opportunities that kind of terrify you. So it wasn't as if, I always had it in me. I still, to this day, suffer from imposter syndrome. Just before speaking with you, Rebecca, I did a huge call to a business that I really, really, really admire out of New York here. And there were hundreds of people on the call. And, just before I went on, I thought, oh, why am I speaking to them? Like, why am I worthy of this? We all suffer from it. And I think what we do is we put successful people up on this pedestal and we think, they're infallible and they've got all the answers and they've got the best laid out plans. And it's just not the truth, So I think the courage comes in the doing and it comes in the practicing and it comes in the saying that, saying yes and figuring out the rest as you go. And that's just been my experience, trying to put myself into these situations and, earn the courage. That's just what's worked for me so far.
I like that. I'm taking notes. Earn and practice. In your book, you also talk about guts and grit, and I know that can mean different things for different people. What does that mean for you?
That's a great question. I think you summed it up beautifully just before. Grit is really about determination and it's about resilience and it's about staying power and it's about staying the course. It's about, I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs, we need to come to terms with the fact that the journey is one. I always say entrepreneurs are like a punching bag. You've got to be punched and you get, you come back up and you get pushed down and you just got to come back up again. It's just this constant, learning and resilience and trying to get stronger each and every single day. So for me, having the guts is just about having courage to try new things and put yourself into uncomfortable situations. And grit is about staying the course and knowing that it's a long term play. You know, I think we live in such a society and such a world where short termism is just rampant. You know, I've always tried to have a long term vision. I've tried to invest, you know, in my relationships, knowing that they're going to last for hopefully decades and decades and decades. So really trying to have, you know, one eye on the now, but the other eye on the future. And I think, you know, any successful person will tell you that you've got to be present in here and in the now and focus on the detail, but also have a lion's eye to, you know, to the future and where you're heading and what your vision is. That's what it means to me anyway.
Do you have any rituals around how you stay present?
Yeah, again, it's like it's a practice, isn't it? And I think we're going to go here in the conversation, but I do have 6 young kiddos,
Yeah.
that 11 down to 4 months. My new little guy is 4 months. And, you know, when I'm parenting and with the family, whether we're around, you know, the kitchen island bench, you know, at night time, I won't have my phone with me, you know, while I'm now in my home office and the door is shut and I'm making sure they're not coming near me because I'm present with you and I'm present in my work. So it's just having a self-awareness around it, and it's about practicing. And, you know, that's my only hack for, you know, being in the moment. It's just really trying to focus and do one thing at a time and, you know, really try and just focus in, just zone in on what you're doing, and let the rest, you know, fade. And I will say I fail at it all the time. You know, it's not as if I'm perfect at it at all, but I bring an awareness to it. I'm mindful of it, and I really try and do my best in every single moment. But yeah, it's a practice. We just got to practice it.
I love that. I love it. Emma, your story actually could have looked very different though if you'd listened to people's advice 15 years ago when you were buying business chicks. What can you tell us what happened when you shared that news with people around you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, you know, I shared the part about, you know, the inner knowing that I wanted to explore buying the business, you know, and I knew that because on a cellular level, everything felt really exciting, you know, and my palms were moving.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I got to go and talk to that woman. And I, you know, I had all these ideas, ping, 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 and I just knew that this is something I wanted to lean into, right? And so I did that, and I, you know, instigated the conversation with the person who was selling the business. That was all great. And then I started doing what we do, and I'm sorry, and this is a broad generalization, but I'm going to make it. I started doing what we tend to do as women. And this is something that I have, you know, I have been studying for the past 15 years in the work I do at Business Chicks with all the hundreds of thousands of members that we have across the globe. I studied it with my team. You know, women are plagued with a unique set of circumstances and challenges, you know, and there's a real collective wisdom that we can learn from these women. But unfortunately, we still do overthink and we overanalyze. Yes, you're
Yes.
nodding. And
Yes.
take advice from people that we perhaps shouldn't take advice from. And we forget to drop down into what feels right. You know, we know it the first time, like you know, like everything pings and you're like, I want to do that, and you're there. And then you start to share that idea and you start to share the concept, or you start to share the you know, like I suppose the risk with people, and they talk you out of that idea. So that definitely happened with me when I wanted to buy Business Chicks all those years ago. I remember my parents saying to me, that's just a ridiculous idea. You know, you have this company that is making money and it's been profitable since day one. It's still growing. You know, friends said the same thing. I took, you know, the numbers, the P&Ls and all the accounts to a management consultant and to my accountant, and they all said to me, there is no business in this. There, you should stick to what you're doing. My mentor said to me, there is no business in women. This little women thing you want to do. No, forget it. There's no business. And I am just glad that I didn't take their counsel, and that I remembered that, you know, I had seen an opportunity, and if I felt it was right, then it was up to me, and I owed it to myself to go ahead and explore that. So I think there's something in that for a lot of us, because, you know, I bet you if I sat you in a room by yourself for long enough, you would know the answers to most of the questions that you have about your career or your life or whatever it is you want to do. But we get so led by other people, all the noise around us, telling what we should do, what we should do, what we can't do, what we could possibly never ever do, and we don't look within and you know, really listen to that inner knowing, because we all have that wisdom, we all have that, but we just get talked out of it, and we overthink and we overanalyze, and it keeps us inert, it keeps us stuck, and it keeps us from moving forward and keeps us from taking action. And so I just want to, like, get rid of all of that, get rid of the noise, look within, ask yourself what you really want to get up to, and then get into action and make it happen. I mean, it can kind of be that easy to get going that way.
In your book, you talk about the paralysis that can form from overthinking and, I guess, asking too many people questions as well. There's something in particular that I really, really love, and from the minute that I've read it, it's stuck in my mind and it helps me now in my own decision making, and that is, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no. Can we
Yes.
that a little bit?
Yes, and that is not my wisdom. That is the wisdom of the amazing Dr. Libby Weaver.
Mm-hmm.
I love this because I think, again, there's a massive gem in there for all of us, because I think that what we do as women is we believe that we have to say yes to everything, and we have to people please, and we have to run around looking after every single other person in the world except for ourselves. So I use this as well. Again, it's not my wisdom. It's the amazing Dr. Libby Weaver's, but I use, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no with so many things. It can be, you're standing in the change room and you've tried on a dress that you need to wear to your friend's wedding. And you're standing there and you're going, I don't know, it could work. It might work. It's not a hell yes. Take it off. Get another dress on. Hell yes. And so, yeah, it's great. I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's just such a good barometer for decision making. And I think it's something that we can all take. If you're given a job opportunity, if you're not running toward these opportunities, if you're not being lit up, if you're not, like I said, sweaty palms and getting excited, we have to drop down to what feels right. So yes, thank you for reminding me of that, because I love that. I love that. I think
it's just a personal favorite because it's helped me. Yeah. I think, imagine how much anxiety we could relieve,
100%.
We could stop wasting, and what a kind of rich life we could have if we sort of lived by that with every decision we made, whether it's the food we eat or, as you say, what we put on, or the business decisions we make. I absolutely love it. So I thank you, and I thank Dr. Libby for that. It's really fabulous. Can I ask now, what do you think has been the key to your success? We've talked about bravery and, lack of conviction. What is it that you think has made you so successful?
Thank you. I think if I could pinpoint maybe one thing, it would be the investment I've been willing to make in people and the relationships I have. That's been something that I was taught from a very, very early age. Getting back to a very basic human principle of being kind to everyone you meet, whether they are the janitor or whether they are the CEO. I used to go for walks with my parents in the morning, and they'd say, good morning to every single person who walked by. And, my dad was always doing favors for neighbors and friends, and my mum was always, being kind to people. So they never kind of, sat me down and said, you've got to be kind to people. But I, like all children do, they absorb by osmosis, the values and behaviors of their environment. And that's just been something that's been so important to me. So I am the person who is known to sit down at the end of the year and write, 600 Christmas cards to people. And, it's been funny watching, newbies coming to the business. We had someone who was new in the business a couple of years ago, and she walked behind my desk one day when I had, cards strewn everywhere and pens and, postage stamps and everything. And she said to one of the people who'd been in the business for a while, why is she doing that? Like, why is she wasting her time? Why is she surely by now she can get someone else to write those cards for her. And the person who worked alongside me for many years is like, you're not getting it. Like, this is it for Em. Like, her relationships are everything. Her investment in people, the way she wants to see people and wants to acknowledge people no matter where they come from, that is her jam. That is what she's put on the planet to do. So, I think that's a really key thing. You've read the book, so you know this, but my very first employee at Business Chicks 15 years ago is still with me today and is a very, very dear friend. She was one of my bridesmaids. I was at her wedding. She's the one, when she goes into labour, she calls me first and says, is that a contraction? And I did that with her. And, she's it. Olivia, who's our wonderful CEO, worked with me in my first business for 3 or 4 years and then left to go somewhere else. Then when I started Business Chicks, she came into that business and worked there for another 4 years and then left. And then I invited her back into the business as the CEO when I moved to America, and she's been in the seat for 5 years now. So, these sort of stories might tell you something about the type of culture we try and create in my companies and at Business Chicks. And, really it is getting back to those principles of kindness and trying to see everyone and, trying to invest time in relationships. And I think I put this in the book, but I love this quote by Dr. Lois Franklin. She says, "When you need a relationship, it's too late to build one." And what that means is we should always be investing in our relationships. We should always be giving. We should always be, it's a daggy term, right? The term networking, but it's just another way to say, see people, invest in them, look after people, be kind. And I think this year with COVID, we've been served up some really massive lessons about relationships. People have lost jobs, lost businesses, lost health, lost homes, and we're having to ask for favours and lean on others, whether that's for connection or, saving our businesses. And when the pandemic first hit, I had to reach out and ask for a ton of favours from people, right? And because I had been looking after them for years and investing in them, all the answers that came back, "Sure, Em, I'll help. Of course, what do you need?" Because people sense authenticity and they can smell BS a mile off. So I think if anything, it comes down to, people are everything. Invest in your people, invest in your relationship. I think it's a really important point.
You also talk about growth mindset and the importance that plays in being successful. Could we unpick that a little bit? But I'm particularly keen to know what steps you take and self-check-ins that you have to ensure that you're constantly growing and developing.
Yeah, I love it. I think as leaders, it's our responsibility to, practice what I call radical optimism at all times, and that's not to
that's nice.
Yeah, it's not to say that we don't have bad days and we feel down.
Of course you do. Yeah.
We do, but it's and not everyone. I certainly don't jump out of bed like, "Woohoo! I'm going to seize the day."
Why not?
We just go. But we do have a choice. Like when it comes to happiness, we have a choice. We can choose to be happy, or we can choose to be pessimistic and see the worst in situations and the worst in others, and fall into apportioning blame and being negative. And again, it's not as if I don't do those things, but I do see it as the responsibility of a leader to show up for their people and try and see the good in them, try and see the good in the world, to try and see opportunities where we can. So I'm always the person who's, trying to lift the mood and have more fun. And, I want to leave a room more awake and lit up from when I walked in, right? So I'm very, very conscious to that. I'm very, very conscious to how your mood dictates, an office culture, how your mood dictates, your relationships and your success. So I really, really do try to choose happiness. You've read the book, so I talk about, I come in every morning. We're not going to offices right now, so this is all null and void.
No, we're all at the office. Look, this is now.
Well, some of my team are going in, but certainly in America where I am, there is no one going to offices. They're lucky you.
No, this is like my home now. We're sitting.
Oh, got it. Sorry, I thought you meant but yeah, wait, I thought it was your home.
At my dining table, my new office. Yes.
Got it. I'm with you. Yeah, definitely. But when back in the day when we went to the offices that we used to go to, I would walk in every single day. Sometimes I had not slept, I had not had my coffee yet, the baby had been up all night crying, I was getting a cold, whatever. No matter what was going on for me, every single day I show up with a smile on my dial. Yes. I take a breath, I go, "Good morning, Rebecca. Good morning, Liv. Good morning, Pia. Good morning, Job." That's what I do every day, right? And you get known as a person, and that is magnetic. And people want to, they want to be around that. They want to be around positive people, and that optimism does rub off on others, and it does help build, culture, and it does help make life a little bit lighter. So I try and practice being radically optimistic in every situation. And that doesn't mean naive, it doesn't mean stupid, but it means being positive and choosing our emotions and choosing how we want to show up in the world. So yeah, that's something I really try and do.
And you think that attracts positive people then as well?
I think it does, and I think it
Yeah.
self-selects really negative people as well. I really think that we've certainly had people come into our business, and they've come in, and by the way, I can pick it probably on about the first, first half an hour of them being there that they're not going to, make it. In terms of like, I had this one girl. I work remotely. Obviously, most of my people are in Australia, and I'm in America. And I had this one girl. We're on a weekly whip, and I'm always on Zoom. This is going back, 3 or 4 years ago now. But it was her first day, and she started. She sat around the boardroom table, and I looked down at the boardroom table, and this is her body language.
Nice.
Yeah, nice, welcoming. And I just thought, oh, and I knew from that second, like, if you're going to, like, she wasn't looking at me, she was with everyone. She was so tucked up, so, it's just not going to cut it here, because you know what?
No.
What we're about is making the world a better place for women, and that starts in our own office and starts in our own culture. And she didn't make it. So I think also, she self-selected as well. It wasn't for her. Great, we're all too chirpy and whatever. And it's not from a. I'm not saying fake the happiness, and I'm not saying for a second you have to be on cloud nine all the time. People do want to hang around with, uplifting people that make them feel better. And yeah, it's something we do try and cultivate at Business Chicks, and we take it quite seriously. Like this idea of having fun and being a little bit irreverent and laughing at ourselves, and I hope to think that a lot of that kind of culture, came from me. It certainly comes from Liv, because I think culture is like a fish, it rots from the head, right? So if you can't get, it's very, very hard to change a culture if the person leading the business doesn't believe in it. So I think we do pretty well, and I encourage anyone who's not even a leader. I mean, we're all leaders. Doesn't matter. You don't need a title to be a leader, right? Leadership is action. So we are all leaders. I don't care if you are in the lowest rung and whatever in your business. We are all leaders. And sometimes I think we sit here and go, oh, I'm going to wait for my manager to do that, and my manager didn't do that, and like, you can make stuff happen. It's all of us to make change and to be positive and to be the one that bounds in and says, good morning, good morning, good morning. Don't worry if no one else is doing it. No one looks silly when they're having fun.
No, and I think that warm, energetic culture that you talk about is exactly the essence of the Business Chicks brand. And as a kind of member, that is what you feel every time you touch the brand, which is part of what I love about it. Can we talk about your mentors for just a moment, if that's okay? Yeah. Because you have people like Sir Richard Branson, Elizabeth Gilbert, Kate Hudson singing your praises. How do you have the confidence to connect with so many celebrities and entrepreneurs across various industries?
Well, I mean, it's just been a byproduct of the work, really. I haven't had to kind of think about it too much. I mean, I think what I know from, forming, what starts the business relationship and pretty much always ends up in a friendship. I mean, we've had a few dodgy ones along the way. I won't.
That's life, though. Yeah.
That's life. They come, they do their gig. We pay them and they go. That's absolutely fine. But the vast majority of people that we've worked alongside, like the names that you said, Gloria Steinem, Ariana Huffington, Brene Brown, Seth Godin. You mentioned Kate Hudson, Liz Gilbert. I love and adore Sir Richard Branson, Sir Bob Geldof. I mean, we could do this for the next 10 minutes, but
yes.
The thing I've learned about these people is that they're exactly like us, right?
Uh-huh.
So, again, we put them on this pedestal and we think they're completely infallible and we think that they've got it all sorted, and they just do not. They're exactly like us. They stress about their own health and their family's well-being, and are their children happy, and are they making the right decisions, and are they financially free of stress, all the things that we grapple with every single day as human beings, having a lived human experience on this planet, they, work through as well. So I think, when I got clear on that, it became very, very easy to work with these people and to, be in their company, because I often am the one that has to travel with them, and I get to see what they're actually like, off the stage as they are on the stage. And, I suppose my strategy is just to treat them exactly like, all of us mere mortals. And I can get Richard talking about his grandkids, for the next 30 minutes. And, Liz Gilbert is an absolute card. She's a hoot. So we have a really. She's a new friend. I only met Liz for the first time in Australia when she was there. February. It was our last. It was our
Yes.
last event series before the
Yeah.
world shut down. So she's a new friend, but we have struck up a really, really beautiful, friendship, and we WhatsApp with each other. And she's a very, very funny lady, and very smart woman, obviously, and I look up to her immensely. But yeah, I think again, it comes back to people sense when you're authentic and when you're real. And, not trying to get something else from them. And, in the case of Liz, I hassled her for something like 8 or 9 years to get her to come to Australia for us. And it was like, honestly, probably 30 or 40 no's. And that's cool. Like, I'm totally down with being told no to. Like, it does not deter me in the slightest. Like, you can tell me no to my face 20 times and I'll still say to myself, I'll be back next week.
There's that determination of yours. Yeah.
You're like, dude, like, no means not now. That's all it means.
Yeah. Just not today. Yeah.
Not today. It's cool. I'll be back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's been such a blessing to learn from these people, and I admire them greatly. And I often say that, whilst I dropped out of university and only lasted for 6 months, Business Chicks has been like the most extraordinary MBA in being, just soak up the wisdom of these extraordinary people and learn from them. And, again, to see them off stage of how they are with their people and how they ask for what they need. And I love it. So it's been such a great teacher for me. And no one. I'm not scared of anyone. Like, there's no one you could put me next to. I mean, I was when I met Michelle Obama. That was probably.
Yeah, I think I'd probably be a little bit nervous.
Did you say it?
I'd be a little bit nervous meeting Michelle Obama.
Yeah, she is just she's everything to me. So
yeah.
I'm quite short. I was in heels, but she was still, that much taller than me.
Yes.
Amazon, and I don't think I could get any words out. I don't even know what I said to her. But look, again, at the end of the day, they're all exactly like us, and they just want to be seen and heard and loved. That's all it is, really.
That's nice. It's really nice. Emma, we have to admit though, they're some of the world's greatest mentors that one could hope to work with, and not all of us, have that privilege to be able to do that. What would you suggest to our audience who are perhaps maybe a little bit more like me and don't have that access? Who would you recommend that they put around them in their own kind of inner circle and network for guidance and support?
I love that. It's a beautiful question. And I, like everyone else, started out there not knowing any of these people and had to, carve out a way to build not only my inner circle. And I have a beautiful inner circle of confidants and friends I turn to, when the proverbial hits a fan, or, when I need a bit of a pep talk. And then I have, a beautiful outer circle, and so it goes on. I think what I'd say about mentorship is this: you are never, ever, ever, unless some miracle happens, you are never, ever going to get every single thing you need from the one person. It's just not possible, right? So I think we all go about going, I need a perfect mentor who's going to, not that person. No, you need 20 mentors. You need 10 mentors. You need people in your inner circle that you can turn to and go to for varying problems and challenges that you're going to face in your career. So, I think relax into that for a minute and stop that one person. And I think so many people can offer, amazing nuggets of wisdom and guidance and that sort of thing. So I would just say, curate your circle really carefully. I think I talk about it in the book as well. I mean, also be really buyer aware when it comes to approaching mentors, because I can put myself in that seat of people asking me to mentor them now. And when someone says to me, will you be my mentor, it freaks me out. Like, I think I'm like non-committal and I've got so much on and the family, and so it's very hard to do that. But if someone were to say to me, hey, listen, Em, I have got one question I want to ask you. I promise you it's going to take 5 minutes of your time. I'm prepared and ready with that one question. Could I have 5 minutes of your time? Oh, yeah, of course, sure. But do not say to me, can I pick your brains and take you for lunch, and then come along to that lunch having done no preparation whatsoever and spend the next hour and a half having lovely small talk with me, for no real purpose. So I
Oh,
think
that sounds like a friend, not a mentor.
exactly, but you'd be surprised. People do that. People really, really do that. So I think really know what it is you're trying to learn at that time, because it's going to change every single season of your life. I think look to the people that you admire for certain things and approach them. But again, maybe don't stress them out with the word mentor. I think that's a real
Yeah.
it can turn a lot of people off. We're all, every single one of us has a lot going on.
Yes.
So that would be my advice. Don't look for it in one person. Look broadly. They may not be in your network now. So ask people. I think that's one of the greatest lessons we can do, is be asking always for help, and asking, your contacts for help, and then they will, introduce you to other people as well. So yeah, broaden the circle. Don't expect the mentorship to come from one person, and keep going until you feel you're getting the support you need.
I love that. Thank you. I'm taking, my own notes. Mental advice. Can we talk about the Business Chicks brand? Because I know, you talk about it in the book, and I kind of had my own sentiment of what you describe around the name of Business Chicks. So can we kind of delve into that and, your feelings around the Business Chick name and why you considered changing it so many times?
Yeah. I mean, for sure. What I love about this little story, I mean, obviously I started off hating the name, and then I came to understand that a brand is so much more than a name. And actually having a contentious name can work in your favor, because it actually piques a bit of interest. And you're like, oh, I don't think I like that, or maybe I do. And what I love about what we've created, and I'd like to think that we, certainly live, but also I have a lot. This has been quite strategic in its design. What people experience when they see Business Chicks, all pink and pretty and lovely, and the chicks and whatever, and then they might see a blonde founder, and they dismiss us. And I love it. It's so good. Like, to be underestimated is one of the most amazing
Yes.
you can have in your toolkit, because they just write you off straight away. So there's no pressure. So that's great. So you start there. But what I've learned, I mean, when I moved to the US 5 years ago, we received a lot of resistance to the name. Colloquially in Australia, it's kind of accepted in a way. We've obviously had 15 years of building a brand, so there's a reputation there. You might have heard of it from someone else who said, "Oh, they're amazing," whatever. So you clock that, and it's in the back of your brain. Here, when we're starting out, 5 years ago, there was none of that legacy. So I started to feel, completely unsure. I mean, I was unsure on all levels of my life. I was having the biggest identity crisis, knee deep in failure, losing so much money by the minute. I had an office in New York, hired a bunch of, expensive people. It's very, 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 very expensive to do business in this country.
Mm.
Coupled with the fact that we were getting resistance left, right, and centre on the name. So, it's already hard to start a business in a new territory, but when you're up against someone's perception before you've even gotten, to the call or to the meeting, it's very, very difficult. So I employed a branding agency out of California. They were here in LA, and, we spent many, many, many months going back and forth on a substitute name, and ultimately, the decision I got to was we should not change the name. And again, I was at a very, very low point when I, hired the agency to do that work for us. I was so unsure of myself. I'm much more, I've bounced back from that massive failure, and I'm much more confident in who we are and what we stand for. And the learnings there for me was that, your brand is just so much more than, whatever you call yourself. And, for me, a brand is the people you hire. A brand is, obviously the way you talk about the communities in which you serve. Your brand is not just a logo on a business card. It is just, the way you be. It's the way you show up. It's the way you speak. It's the way, it's all those things culminated. So, yeah, I mean, the name is here to stay. Sorry if you hate it.
Oh, I love it now.
But I think that's the thing as well. When people, peel back a few layers and start to dig a little deeper, I think they'll find that it's actually a really well considered, and we're a brand that deeply cares for people and women and the communities in which we serve. So if people give us the time, they'll discover that. If they don't, they're not for us, and that is the learning there. In your business or in your career, you're not going to be for everyone. You're not going to be for everyone. I think, again, as women, I think we can walk through life trying to please everyone. And, oh, I don't want to rock the boat there. I don't want to ruffle some feathers there. It's like, you're not going to be everyone. Just
Yeah.
you can still have a great career or a great business, carving out a niche for yourself, and ignoring the other people who may come in and say that's not for me, and that's cool. You're not for us, and move on and find someone else. So I think there's a big learning in there for all of us.
You've just mentioned failure in everything you've talked about just then. Can we go there? Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
What does failure feel like for you, and what do you think about failure? How do you overcome it?
Failure sucks. It's not fun. Let me tell you, as a very A-type entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Everyone tries to sell your story on failure that, it's great. And
I'm so glad you say that, because I fail all the time, and I feel like I'm supposed to be grateful that I've
nah.
And I'm thinking no, because it feels terrible.
It's not comfortable for anyone. It's really not. I will say this: it's very culturally nuanced, particularly in the US. In Australia, whilst we're probably kinder to each other, like, I should be right, mate, and all that sort of stuff. Here I have learned a lot about failure. I've learned a lot about the process of failure. I've learned a lot about not just through my own experience, but through the cultural acceptance, right? The cultural comfort with failure. We don't have a cultural comfort with failure in Australia. So, I think I mentioned this in the book as well, like, a lot of investors out of Silicon Valley will not back entrepreneurs unless they can show, one or two past failed ventures. So, I have learned a lot about failure in these past 5 years, because, I really failed trying to get business chicks off the ground here in the US the first time around. So I personally experienced it. But the more people I meet, and the wider my orbit gets, the more I experience people who are just, so down with failure. Not to name drop it, Richard Branson is one of those guys. Like, he actually starts businesses knowing full well that they might fail, and that's not the point, right? The point is in the trying, the point is in the adventure, the point is in the experiment, the point is in the learnings. Not most, but a lot of his businesses have failed, and I've got to spend a lot of time with him, and he just sort of, laughs it off. But I'm not there yet. I still think failure hurts, and I still think I'd rather avoid it if I can. It certainly has served me up some really important lessons, and I'd like to think I'm a very, very humble person, but it has been huge lessons in humility for me. When you come from a market that's so small like Australia, and you're, big fish in a little pond, and then you arrive here and everyone's like, who dat, never heard of her, don't care. And I don't know if we're going to go here, but I released the book Winging It in Australia 2 years ago, and it did really, really well. It still continues to sell really well, which I'm really proud of. And we did something really, really smart with that book. We only sold the rights in Australia and New Zealand. So the book sold there, got published, great, but really resonated with Australians and Kiwis. I came back home to the US and started to shop the rights around and the manuscript around to publishers here, and schlepped the streets of freezing cold, snowy New York on too many occasions, sitting in these publishers' offices only to be told no and get rejection after rejection after rejection. And to the point at which I had to, I think we stopped counting when I got to about 40 rejection emails and phone calls. I just it was too hard for my soul and my ego to bear. And it was tough. And I finally found a beautiful home and a really solid offer. I've been offered other offers, but they weren't where I needed to be. And I think also you need to know your worth, and really hold yourself to that. And again, circling back to the very start of our conversation, going with what feels right. So, eventually I got a amazing publisher here in the US, and just released it here in America. Different version. It's
that must feel good.
Instead of mom, it's mom, and organization. It does feel good. It does feel good. So, sometimes you have to go through 47 rounds of failure to get your one yes. And, ultimately, while failure totally
That's
sucks.
not a failure, though. That's a detour, isn't it?
Yeah, I like that. That's good. You should be writing self-help books. I like that. They were pretty clear rejections, let me tell you. They were pretty. But yeah, it definitely fortifies you, and it does breed resilience, and makes for a good story as well. I think I'm definitely coming to terms more and more so with the idea of failure, but still we'll avoid it at all costs, let me tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Can we talk about the C word? It's the word that has been on everyone's lips this year with this global pandemic, and I refuse to actually say what it is because I'm so sick of saying it. I know how hard 2020 has been for businesses and for individuals. You're in the events business, and so you must have had the need to kind of pivot and readjust very, very quickly. I'd love to unpick that with you and understand what that was like.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start with, it's been a roller coaster for all of us, right? The turbulence of the pandemic, and the C word has been too much for so many people to bear. I mean, we're here in the States, the cases are still they're not acceptable. The levels of homelessness, all our frontline workers here, it's a terrible situation. What we did as a business, the minute that it was announced as a global pandemic, I got into what I would call immediate and urgent action. I got the team together. I got our external accountant, our CFO, our internal accountant to sit down, and I said, give it to me straight. How many months have we got with cash? What are we looking at here? So we reverse engineered it, and we said, okay, what are we looking at? And we kind of had to play back from this. That was all great, build in a bit of a management rigor and put the team into that as well, so they would know the severity of the situation and how we all have to act differently.
Yes.
Obviously, as you said, a large part of our business is live events. So that part of the business is completely decimated overnight. Luckily, I certainly did not see a global pandemic coming. I don't have a crystal ball by any stretch. But what I did do 15 years ago was really try and fortify the business and have a diversity in our revenue streams. So I always knew, again, no crystal ball, but I've always known in business you have to have multiple revenue streams and you have to strengthen, that base in case one falls over or whatever. So we make money through other, ways. We have a paid subscription membership model. We're very, very grateful for all our members who support our work year in after, year out. We make money off of our B2B business. So we have a partnership business where companies sponsor all our activities. We're very grateful to the companies and brands that partner with us. We have a digital media business where we produce a magazine. We have digital content online every day. So, all of these things were really useful to be able to dial up some, and while the live events dropped off. Obviously, one of the first things we did to pivot was move into digital delivery of our events. We knew that if we were going to be stuck in our homes, people were going to be crying out for connection and community even more so. So we started doing virtual member meetups, which has been really great, and a lot of our members have actually said that these have saved our lives. Just to be with other people and walking the journey together. So all of these things have had a tremendous impact on the way our business has been run this year. From an events perspective, we're used to having, you've been to 9 to Thrive, which has 4,000 or 5,000 people through those doors. So running an event like that where we're asking people to spend, I don't even know what the ticket price is, whatever, $200 or odd dollars. We're now asking people, most of our events are free, by the way, for members, and so we're asking people to pay $24 for an online event. So we're going backwards so quickly.
Yes.
But what is important, something that we sat down and got really clear on from the start, Liv and I said, who do we want to be known as? Or what do we want to be known for when this all is said and done? Who do we want to be as leaders? What are our community going to say about us, when this is all said and done? And we wanted to just continue to show up for our people, show up for our members, continue to produce really relevant content that was going to make a difference in the way that we conduct ourselves in business and in life. And we're ultimately really, really proud of that. And it's taught us so many lessons. I'll just draw on a really, really quick metaphor because it might tell you something about the way I work. When the pandemic was announced, we knew straight away everyone's going to be going to online events, and to be able to, carve out a space and kind of own a bit of that territory, it's a first mover advantage. Like, we're going to have to really, the early adopters need to jump on that and get on it, and boom. So I got our events team together, and I said, okay, guys, we have about 8 or 9 people in our events team. They're extraordinary operators. I said, what do we know about producing digital events? And, we sort of know about Zoom and this and that, but we didn't really have a huge amount of, corporate expertise, if you like. So what was really interesting, I said to them, we need to get something up like now. Like, we need to be known as the people who can, move and shake, get stuff up, ship something out. Like that's who we are as a brand. That's who we are as people. And they said, but, we're going to need a couple of weeks to work out the tech, and we're going to need a couple of weeks to work out the pricing. I said, we don't have a couple of weeks. We do not have that time. Here's what's going to happen. I went out to 5 or 6 of my friends and called in the favors of these people that, Mark Manson and Jane Goodall and Jane Werwin that founded Dermalogica, and Lois Frankel I mentioned before, like all these people that have been in our orbit for ages. Laura Brown, who's the editor of InStyle in New York. And I just said to them, I need a favor, guys. Like, we are looking down the barrel of our business completely collapsing unless, we can get something happening here. And I got all those guys together and, got the ducks in the row, and I created a brand and put it on sale within a day whilst all those other things were happening, right? So I think sometimes we forget that, the order can be a little bit all over the shop. We can build the plane while it's flying. We don't have to follow this perfect roadmap with a sequential, common sense that says we do this and then we do this and then we do this. It can be, or innovation can look like mixing it up and doing things a little bit, hodgepodge, if you like, but it always gets there. It looks like a schmick show at the end, but we did not have those 2 weeks to wait. So I think the first mover thing, I think the early adopter innovation is really, really critical. It was about, drawing a line in the sand and saying we are here to support and to serve, and we did that from the outset. So I'm not trying to paint a rosy picture at all. It's been devastating for our business, but at the same time, we've done a really, really beautiful job at showing up for our community and being there for them, and we're really, really proud of that.
We're very grateful that you did do that, and I love that. Put it out there, and then the rest will follow. You have to make it once you've made that commitment, don't you? In all of your business journey so far, what's the biggest thing that you've learned?
Oh, gosh. I think it is that fortune favors the bold. Fortune favors the brave. Fortune favors those who are willing to do, what hasn't been done before. I often get asked, what's your favorite quote? And the one I always say is, if it is to be, it is up to me. And what I mean by that is, I love that, because, someone was going to bring Richard Branson to Australia and tour him. Someone was going to, become besties with Liz Gilbert. We're not besties, but, someone was going to do this. Someone was going to do all these things, right? We run these amazing knowledge and study tours to LA and New York. We bring mostly Aussies over here, and we do leadership training with the fire department of New York, and study with the best business schools in the country. Like, someone was going to do that. Like, it might as well have been me, right? So when you can kind of have that North Star, and when you can kind of, it just really buoys you to try and do the things that require boldness and require courage and require bravery. So, I think it's, try and do the things that scare you. Try and do the things that no one else is doing, because someone out there is going to do them eventually, and it may as well be you.
I love that. I love it. Let's talk family.
Yeah.
You have 6 children. 6. And congratulations, because your youngest is only 4 months old. And you are the CEO of a global business, and I'm sure that everybody who's listening, and I know you've been asked this a million times, but can you tell us, how do you do it?
Yeah. I wish I had a really succinct, beautiful answer for you. It is chaotic. There is never a moment when this house is quiet. It requires you to, I've got someone. Okay, it's all good. I thought that was a child trying to get into my office.
Do you know what? I have been wondering, when is a child going to come and interrupt Zoom.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's happened so many times to me, and most people are very forgiving, and this is the world in which we live, so that's all.
Yes.
That's great. But back to the how to do it. So a lot of the principles that we've spoken about, I think, again, my career has been a little bit unusual in that I really kind of established myself at a very, very young age. And so by the time I got to parenting, I kind of collected a bunch of skills that I could kind of apply into parenting, which is great. And also, I think it's really important to all of us should be focused on our financial, health and welfare. And I really tried from a very young age to build myself into a situation where I was independent, and never reliant on any other human being. So I'm very, very proud of that. So I encourage us all to really get a grip on our money story and start investing from a very young age, which I did. So all that said, I have amazing people around me. On my right hand, my work wife, I like to call her, runs my professional life. We have a great couple of au pairs in our house who help, run the household. I outsource conceivably everything I can. And that's not to say at all that I ever have my backside on the sofa, because I don't. I'm a very, 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 very hands-on mum. I can tell you where my kids' homework is at and what assignment they're missing. I'm very, very, very hands-on. And I think a lot of people look at me and they think, oh, that poor lady with all those children, she has to travel so much, she's away from the kids so much. It couldn't be further from the truth. I'm very, very, very hands-on parent. I say no to a lot of things. I say no to most everything, really. Unless it lights me up and unless I can see myself enjoying whatever the opportunity is, I just say no. I'm it's totally fine for me to say no to, and for you to do the same. So I think that's really important. Asking for help, outsourcing, saying no to a lot of things, just knowing your values and knowing your priorities. For me, my priority is always going to be my family, and it's always going to be my business. And yes, those are two massive undertakings, but for me, everything else just fades into the background and doesn't exist. I'm certainly not running marathons. I'm certainly not, I don't have a huge friendship circle, so I'm not out socializing all the time. So yeah, it's really about, focusing in on what is important to you and trying to do that well. So for me, that's family and work. And I regularly fail at both. We talked about being present, wherever you are at the time, and I try to do that. But listen, I think, my kids would tell you that, they like that their mum is up to something. I know they're proud of me because I hear them on their Zoom calls and my mom's an author and my mom wrote a book, and it's in fact, they may not tell me, but I hear them telling their classmates. Yes. She is so cool, and so that's really nice. And I think I learned, I got really clear in my relationship with guilt and parenting from a very early on in my parenting. You can read about that in the book. That's easy. But one thing that a mentor taught me when I had my first child, Mila, who's now 11, she said to me, as much as when your first baby comes out and you're holding them and you're looking into their eyes and you're thinking, oh, what a beautiful little baby. And, I wonder what they're going to make of themselves. I wonder what they're going to become. I wonder what impact they're going to create. I wonder who they're going to be as a person. They are looking up into your eyes and they're thinking, who are you going to become, Mum? What impact are you going to make? What are you going to get up to in the world? What are you going to, what's your legacy going to be? So they might not be telling you that, but they are watching all the time and they want you to be, achieving things. They want you to be out there making your mark. And, I'm also, the last thing I'll say about it is I'm a better mum when I work. My work is energy. I love my work and I bring that into my home, and, people again sense that. They can sense that I have, and let's face it, we need energy for parenting. And I need energy with 6 of them. So I need right?
I can only imagine that your kids look at you and obviously talk about you with such pride, and I can imagine the adventures that you bring into your life, into their life. So, I'm kind of in awe of you and that style. Do you think that the work-life balance exists?
No, I don't. I mean, I think what we're saying when we say we want to have more work-life balance is that we want to have more life in our life, right? So I also think that, when we, are so stuck on this whole idea of work-life balance, it kind of leaves us all feeling less than, right? So It makes us feel like, we have to have it all perfectly balanced and the scales tipped perfectly every single day. And it's not possible. It's a concept that is not possible. So yeah, I just advocate for having more living in your life, and keep going until you find something that really lights you up in your work, and you will know if you're not living it. If you dread getting out of bed on a Monday morning, if you dread dragging yourself to your dining room table or your office, you're not doing the thing you're meant to be doing. So have that tough conversation with yourself.
You touched on it a little bit just now around guilt in motherhood and career, and you do talk about it in your book, and you describe it as being a wasted emotion. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, so I think, if we were parents who didn't experience guilt at some point, we wouldn't be human. Like, to be a parent is to experience guilt. We wouldn't care about our children if we didn't experience guilt at some point. I just really try and not sit with it. I really try and, experience it and accept the feeling, and then I let it go. And that's just the best advice I can give for anyone. So yeah, just don't sit in the guilt, let it go, move on. It doesn't serve anyone.
Just throw it away.
Just throw it away. Get rid of it.
Yeah. Lastly, I did put my daughter to 9 to Thrive when you first launched the book, and I think she was about 11 at the time. And I've got the book here, and you wrote in here to Dear Elizabeth, and you said, my one piece of advice is to believe in yourself. Additional advice do you have to young women with big dreams and ready to make their mark in the world?
I think educate yourself. I think surround yourself with amazing people. I think research. I think educate yourself. I think understand that education is not, perhaps they can take some cues from me. It does not need to be the absolute linear path, as much as our parents would want that for us still to this day. But really absorb yourself and find your circles, find your networks, put yourself out there, give yourself opportunities. It's just really this whole conversation has been about, leaning into comfort, leaning into fear, leaning into courage. So they just got to wing it and have a go.
I love that. I love it. Just wing it. Yeah. Emma, you are an absolute inspiration, and there is so much to learn from you. I can't thank you enough for your time this evening. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks so much. I loved it.